What are you doing, Ann Brothers?
Nothing. I'm enjoying this lovely sun, and yeah,
That's
so
cool. I
glad this
know.
whole week is gonna be like warm and well, warm for March and sunny for
Yes.
March.
I think that's awesome because I'm ready. I don't know about you, but
hmm
I'm fully ready for whatever happens next,
I am so
So,
100% over winter.
and it wasn't really even that bad of a winter. I mean, for being honest. So,
Well, it could have been. I mean, like, I was looking at my sister-in-law Liz. I was looking at her Facebook page, and they have like 3 feet of snow up in the Traverse City area, and it's even more up in the UP. So I'm like, it could have been much worse, I know, but still, I
I
want
think
it to be
Marquette got 22 inches on Wednesday. And did
yeah,
you see
like
that thing? Yeah, it was like real. And did you see I sent you a clip of the Black Rocks up there where they were getting their 20 to 25-foot waves. Check your Facebook messages because
I will.
where we were at the New Year's when Duncan was
Mhm.
jumping out on rocks. That was all underwater because those waves were crashing over the top of the Black Rocks right there.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wow. Oof. I could imagine it
Yeah.
because I was like, "Ooh." I mean, we were
Yeah.
there. It was pretty wavy, but
Yeah, that was it was
dangerous.
it was pretty crazy. Yep.
Mhm.
So yeah, it could have been worse.
Could have
We could have
been.
gotten 3 feet of snow, and some guy he had stacked up his bush light cans, and I think it was like 9 or 10 bush light cans or something.
To put it in perspective.
It's right. So it was quite the storm, indeed.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So I heard that it was like 22 inches in 24 hours or something ridiculous. And I was like, all right,
yeah, ew.
you
Yeah,
win.
plus
You win.
plus 40 to 60 mile an hour winds. You're like, "Oh yeah, welcome to the in case you forgot what the UP is like in the wintertime." Because the thing is, we went up to the UP at the beginning of the
hmm
year, and I don't feel like we got the real winter experience while we were up there.
I don't think, I think we got the dark experience because it's a dark place in the winter. But man,
Yes,
I think we lucked out.
I think we did. I think we hit this nice little window where there
hmm
was, like just it kind of snowed, but it wasn't serious
hmm
snow. It was just like when you have like a little rain shower. We have a
hmm
special guest on the show today. We have Marla the cat. That's who I'm reaching down and petting right now. So, it's her way of saying to me, "Hey, girl, it's time to feed me."
We fed the cats before the show because I was gonna say, if you look on my couch, I have a Koo is sitting next to Duncan, and he was like, he's not very vocal when it comes to being fed. I mean, he'll always like take food, but Bobo is just obnoxious
He's
when
like,
he
"I
thinks
will
it's
tip."
food time.
That's right.
Mm.
I'm like, "I will flip a table if I don't get some food."
And a lot of people, it's funny because Koo was born at a humane society, so he's never starved, but he's our fat kitty. But Bovine was actually confiscated cat. He actually got taken out of somebody's home, so he's starved, but he's our slim cat. He's very trim. So, but man, he is
S-
very food centered.
he's got the right genetics to
He
be a
does.
skinny
He
kitty.
does.
So
He
that's
does.
good.
He's very
Right
sleek.
on.
Mhm.
Nice. Very good. Well, here we are on a Sunday. We're a little bit early today, and I'm a little bit off because A, I'm high on paint fumes, and B, we sprang forward this morning. So,
Mhm.
that always makes things a little bit, the light is all wrong right now because
Mhm. I
I'm
feel
like,
like it's
it's
only
not,
3 in the afternoon. I was like,
it
"Hey, we got so
is.
much time." And it's like, "It's actually
And
5. My chickens are all screwed up."
the cats are screwed up, the chickens are screwed up, we're all screwed up.
Mhm.
So here we go. I wonder if we'll ever stop doing this. If we'll just like be like, hey, let's just leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
It would take nobody's motivated. Everybody's motivated enough to bitch about it when it happens, but none of our lawmakers or anybody in charge is motivated enough to actually do anything about it. So
Said lawmakers. Do we have those
I
anymore?
know, I know. That's why, Jenny. I was like, we can't get real shit done. How can we get pretend shit done?
That's true. So,
Mhm,
well, excellent point. Excellent point. So anyway, here we are at the beginning of March. Well, is this second week of March? Second
mhm.
weekend of March. And we're talking about books today. We're going to go all book nerd today. You and I have each picked out a book and kind of a half
Mhm.
to kind of deep dive into today. So that's what we're working on. So it should be an interesting read. You and I, you of course are the Readosaurus Rex, and I'm more of like a not really a read dinosaur. I'm more like a read, I don't know, chicken, which is the evolved, less advanced species.
I'm like a little T-Rex with my book out right next to my face because my arms are too short.
That is correct. That is correct. Well done. So yeah, let's jump into this, shall we?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So, Anne, you want to take us through the welcome to our guests?
I do. So welcome and or welcome back. We are Anne and Janice Brothers. We're sisters and our last name is Brothers. And we couldn't resist the opportunity to market that. So here we are, the
Hell
Brother
no.
Sisters. I know. We're in our 50s, Generation X. Thank you very much. Which means in the 1980s, we wore a shirt or a dress or a blouse or a blazer that had huge shoulder pads. And it wasn't unusual to have like a blouse with huge shoulder pads, with a sweater with huge shoulder pads worn over that, and then a blazer with huge shoulder pads on top of that. So, but before you make fun of me, it really slimmed the waist, is what it did. So,
It
yeah.
did. Yeah,
Exactly.
and
So, couldn't get away from it.
yeah, and the 80s, were big we were into our blazers in the 80s. That's
We
all I
were
know. Very much so.
my dad really my mom and dad want my mom and dad wanted us to look nice at church so people wouldn't know we were poor. And so for Christmas, we always got a nice outfit, like, like separates. We got the skirt and the matching blouse and a blazer and the matching tights or socks or whatever. So we had a ton of that sort of clothing when we were growing up. And then we went to a Catholic school, and on first Friday of every month, it was dress up day. So you got to dress up and you didn't have to wear a uniform. So we always, hauled out our finest, what is
I
it?
like how you say we got to dress up instead of we had to dress up, because for you it was we got to
Had
dress
to
up, and
dress
for
up.
me it was I have to dress up.
And it was like, it's like Jenny would let me pick out her clothes.
Uh, I loved my uniform so fucking much. I
I,
loved that thing. I'm like, it was the greatest. Honest to God, it was the greatest piece of clothing ever created by human hands. It was indestructible. You couldn't stain it. You could barely rip it, and it was there every day, day in and day out for 8 years.
oh man, and I was the exact opposite. I hated my uniform. I mean, my parents, in fact, when I got to high school and I got to wear whatever I wanted, I exploded. I was the weirdest dresser. And my parents would make fun of what I wore every day. What's Anne wearing today? And then they would make fun of me. And the thing is, like, I was modest. My dress was always modest. I wore a ton of skirts and dresses because I love skirts and dresses. That's probably from the uniform. But yeah, I would wear the funkiest stuff. I have people that to this day that I'll see that I went to like high school or a teacher, and they'll be like, "Oh, you dress so interestingly." I loved it.
No,
Couldn't
I
wait to
simply
get out of
swapped.
uniform.
Yeah, swapped one uniform for another. So I basically went from my uniform, which I loved and so much, and then I went from either khakis and a t-shirt or jeans and a t-shirt. That's what I wanted. And then when I played basketball and they would make us dress up for fucking basketball, it was a nightmare. It was fucking torture. I'm like, why would you do that? Why not just let me wear what I want to wear? For God's sake.
And it seemed like whenever you guys would have to dress up for a basketball game, I would look at all the girls that played basketball, and I was like, they all looked miserable. I'm like, I'm wearing heels and I don't know how to walk in, and they were all like, it was so funny. I was like, I could
Yeah,
help you,
yeah.
ladies.
Yeah, it was like watching a monkey play hockey is what it was. When you would see a bunch of the jock girls trying to look like cute in their skirts. Yeah, it didn't take
None of you wore skirts except for maybe like Karen, but the rest of you all wore, khaki pants or whatever with the pleats because it was the 80s.
because it was the 80s and it was high-waisted pleated pants, even though
Mhm.
high-waisted pants are in again, which I think is
Right.
hysterical.
I think that is too, but yeah.
Yep.
Oh
So you
man,
see all
the
these cute little
Blazers.
Gen Zs with their giant high pants. I'm like, that's so awesome.
It did come back. I knew it would.
It did. Sorry, I interrupted you. I interrupted you. I just
Oh,
thought that
I'm
was
sorry, and
yeah.
I got off
Mhm.
on a track because we were talking about clothes.
We
We
are
talk
talking about
about
yes.
smart stuff, dumb stuff, and fun stuff, or any combination of the three. We're not cool, hip, or sexy. Jenny, you and I are vintage.
Hey, because
Mhm.
that means we're not antiques. Vintage is cool too.
Yeah,
So
it is. So it's
yeah,
a way to say cool, hip, and sexy in one word. So there you go.
nicely done. Yes.
Uh-huh. We're not a true crime celebrity or influencer podcast. Maybe we will revert to one of those when we run out of things to say. But based on the last 10 minutes, I don't think we'll ever run out of things to say.
No, we literally just talked for 10 minutes about the fact that we summed up who we are as people by our uniform or not uniform choices.
Exactly. We've been told we're good to listen to when you want to learn things about stuff. And maybe you just need an hour to pretend it will all work out.
That's hysterical. That's
Keep the
awesome.
dream alive.
Yes, that is
Uh,
correct.
So this podcast is not G, PG, or even PG-13. It's, we've already sworn a number of times, at least I have. So, and we're going to probably swear a little bit more today because we're going to be talking about some fucking awesome books.
Fucking
Uh,
awesome.
Join us on our website, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Like us, follow us, hit the bell, smash it real hard, and leave
Smash
us a
that puck.
review.
Smash it. Yeah,
Give
do
us your
that.
feedback with our questions and answers and our polls. And hey, Alexa, play us. She will, because, somebody's going to do what we ask. Might as well be
I
her.
think I think Siri, technically Siri, would play us too because if you're like on Apple Music, you can be like, "Siri, play the Brothers Sisters," and then we'll pop up. Um, we will also appear on Chat GPT. That's right. If you
Oh,
type in something about the Brothers Sisters, it will talk about the duo, so it knows that there's two of us.
man, that JTP, it's going to rule the world, isn't it?
Well, and actually, I haven't told you this yet, but we're actually moving the show to entirely AI. We're going to be AI figures. So, okay, as you know, I've been kind of studying this instructional design thing, and AI is all over ID right now.
Hmm.
And there's several different AI things that make like human versions of AI. And I gotta tell you, they are terrifying. So, like, you'll type in what you want the little AI bot to say, and then the AI bot will say it like in a different accent. But their mouth moves kind of funny, and they have these just dead fucking eyes. It's like, oh my gosh. So the good news is I'm gonna be able to pick who my overlord is when the time comes.
Oh, this one
I would
seems
like the English
familiar.
grandmother overlord. Yeah, it's so fucking weird, and it's like it's what everybody wants right now. I'm like, okay, I'd rather just have a cartoon.
Exactly. I'm like, ew, this is creepy.
It is. It's super creepy, and it's like the early Pixar things. Like, have you seen the movie the what is it? The Express,
Oh,
Starlight, not Star,
the Polar Express?
Polar Express, the Polar
Yes.
Express. Like that's some of the earliest like the new computer animation, and everybody in that movie's got that weird dead eye thing going. Well, that's what the
Mhm.
AI, the human AI, looks like right now. It's like the mouth doesn't work quite right, and the facial expressions are all weird, and they all got that dead eyes. Like if I could come through this computer screen, I would kill you with my AI hands. You know,
Both of them are left hands.
they are both left hands with too many fingers, and they are coming after you.
Oh, man. Don't let them
Yeah.
hear us make
So
fun of it. Jenny,
I know.
I
Sorry.
know. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Sorry, AI overlord.
Sorry, AI
We love you.
overlords. We love you. You're the best. You're great. So yeah, tell your AI overlords to like, and subscribe, leave a review, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and wherever else you get your AI. So
It's coming for you, whether you like it or not.
it really is. It's astonishing how fast it's happening. I mean, everything now is just I'm just getting inundated with all my services now that have them like we have the AI thing that will answer all of your questions. And honestly, it's so great because I don't really have to think anymore, and it's like I don't have to worry about democracy anymore because I'm like I don't know who to vote for. AI vote for me, you know. So AI make my choices for me, and that's great. I'm like I can just turn all of my thinking and decision making over to the bots. So
That's what I always wanted anyway. So here we are.
exactly. So
Oh, it's a
that's okay.
beautiful
It's fine.
time.
It's fine. It's so good to be alive. So, Anne, let's talk about smart stuff, dumb stuff, fun stuff. I'm going to start. Joe took
Mhm.
me on a surprise date on Friday. He just said, "We're going on a date Friday. Be ready." And I said, "Okay." And we ended up going to see the K Wings at little K Wings Stadium, little Wing Stadium in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and it was a super fun night for the following reasons. Number A, the hockey is good. So the K Wings are part of the East Coast Hockey League, which is kind of so their parent team is the Vancouver Canucks, and so they're kind of like the you have one step down, which is their AAA team, and then you have the next step down, which is the K Wings. So it's kind of like their double A team. So and Joe also got us seats right on the glass, right next to the bench. So I could literally look over and look at the Atlanta Gladiators bench. That's who they were playing. And it was kind of fun because I've never sat that close to hockey players before, and they are animals. Let me just say that. No, it was really fun, and it was first responder night, so they were honoring first responders in the area, which was really fun. And they did a bunch of fun stuff like in between periods, double Zamboni, so you got to watch two different Zambonis do the ice. And I've actually decided that I don't need therapy, I just need Zamboni. That's all I need. It's like
Well,
you're
yeah.
anxious, watch the Zamboni clean the ice. Not feeling good about yourself, watch the Zamboni clean the ice. If you think maybe you need a new start in life, just watch the Zamboni clean the ice. It's a whole new start. Every other it's just the greatest thing ever. And I'm like they do this thing where like if you're like kids having a birthday or something, they have a seat on the back of one of the Zambonis so you can like sit on the Zamboni while it's doing the ice. I'm like, damn it, I would give anything to be that kid.
How come the
I
kids
know.
what about the adult birthday Zamboni where you can, like,
There was
have a
no
drink while
I
you
know.
ride
I'm
on the
like,
Zamboni?
that's right. The Zamboni is your DD. I love that.
I know, I was like, "Oh, man." They would
Designated
make
Zamboni.
so much
My
money.
They also have a weird duck mascot. I can't remember the duck mascot's name, but also the things that's sort of the stuff that nightmares are made of, but that's
Mhm.
fine. My favorite event of the night is they had this tug of war between this little tiny community's fire department and the Berrien County Sheriff's Department.
On the
And so
ice?
they on the ice, which was hilarious, but it was even more hilarious is apparently if you're a giant human, then you work at the Berrien County Sheriff's Department because they rolled out like 10 guys that were all gigantic. As soon as they stepped onto the ice and you had these little tiny guys from this fire department and then every giant deputy from the Berrien, it was like, well, what the fuck are they even doing this for? And yeah, each time it was like over.
We need some well, if you're gonna be in the fire department, you have to be able to, like, get up ladders and get into small spaces and rescue cats from trees.
Mhm.
You can't be
Yeah,
giant.
yeah, no, none of these guys, and it's like Joe's like, "Hey, the next time we're in Berrien County, if we want to commit a crime, we'll just run away." Because they were some big boys. It was very funny. So that was
Oh,
probably the
man.
highlight for me was
That
the
sounds like
very
fun.
lopsided.
What a
Yeah,
fun
it was fun.
thing.
It was a really fun night, and they had lots of fun little special things. Like my favorite other thing was that they made these guys. They put on these hats with a marker that sticks out the front, and then they had to draw something. They're like they had to draw. They were trying to get Dwight Yoakam tickets, so they had to draw a microphone and a guitar with their hat pencil or their hat marker, which was
Oh,
awesome because
man,
they
there
it was
must have been
just.
a lot of penises.
I was gonna say it was like, look, they drew four penises.
I was talking to Duncan yesterday. If you know my husband at all, you know that he has a penchant for drawing penises. And
He
so
does.
yesterday, before we were going to falling asleep, I'm like, Duncan, I just realized what your tattoo should be. You should draw one of your penises and have a tattoo artist put that on as your tattoo. The kind you like, the really veiny kinds. I'm like, I'm like, nobody would have a tattoo like that. And don't you think that's brilliant? Sorry, Jenny's laughing so hard.
Just trying to, where do you put that? I'm like, forearm? You put, is it a back tattoo? I'm like, what is that?
I think as many people should see it as possible because they'd see that and they're like, "Oh," and they would know. They would be like, "Oh yeah, that's actually brilliant." I'm like,
They're like,
"Yeah,
dude, where do I get one of those? I'm like, you get your penis tattoo. Yeah. And
uh-huh."
then, the best part of that is like all those years that young men have spent practicing
Right.
drawing tattoos on tables and walls and
I was gonna
chairs and
every
lockers. I'm like,
a third of the
yeah.
desks when I taught all had penises on them, drawn on them, or carved into it.
Yeah, basically carved. There isn't a single table that I have that doesn't have a penis carved into it. And like especially the sides, I've turned them all in towards each other, but I'm actually out of I'm out of space. Now there's just.
Now there's
Every
just
surface is covered with a penis or a rocket, as our custodian in Minnesota used to call them. She used to just call them like, "Oh, there's another rocket," because yeah.
exactly. So sorry, that was a big digression, but I was like, yeah,
That
I
was
think
sorry. So anyway, yes, K Wings hockey was a blast, and there was also like now the beauty too of going to a hockey game in the state of Michigan, a small venue like the K Wings. I think it only holds like 5 or 6,000 people. But, like, when you walk around the whole thing while you're getting to your seats, you can't go 6 feet without running into something to put in your mouth. Either, like, a drink or something to eat or mini corn dogs or $3 hot dogs. It was $3 hot dog night too, which was amazing.
mhm.
So, domestic beer and $3 for domestic beer, $3 for hot dogs. It was a good night. So, yeah.
Wow, you can't buy food for cheaper than that, so
No, and, there was also some let me see, um whenever we would score a goal, then there would be cheering and horns, and then there would be a quick, "Hey, na na na, say a Monet, Monet. Hey, guess what? Your goalie sucks." So, there was that too.
awesome, this sounds like a fun thing, a
It
super
was, it
fun
was,
event.
it was a really fun night.
Mhm.
So that was my fun thing this week. K Wings hockey. Let's go.
Let's go. So Duncan and I did a dumb fun thing. We went and saw the movie The Monkey, which is uh, a retelling of one of Stephen King's short stories. And basically, it's kind of an evolution of the monkey's paw, only in this case, it's a wind up monkey toy. And when you wind it up, it plays its little thing, its little drums. And then on the last stroke, it hits the drum and somebody dies. Somebody around you dies in a bizarre way. And
Hmm.
the short story isn't I don't think is half as good as the movie was. The movie was dark and very funny, and the deaths were supposed to be 1 in a million deaths. So they're this very bizarre thing, and the person who's controlling the monkey, they can't control who dies, and they're not the ones that die, but somebody around them will. So it's basically these two brothers trying to hide the monkey, and the other trying to, and that's not a euphemism, and the other one trying to find it so he can kill his own brother. Anyway,
Oh, that's dark indeed. Yeah,
it
that's very
was
dark.
so dark. And the thing is,
Wow.
Stephen King stories do not usually do well as movies because he's so character centered. And the ones that do the best are the ones that are narrated. And this was a narrated film. So one of the brothers was the narrator. And yeah, it was. And that's the thing that's so interesting about Stephen King stories is that you are not told about the horror. You experience the horror through somebody else's perspective. And that's what makes it so unique. You're not just, but yes, you get that chance to do that. Anyway, it was not a brilliant movie, but it was a well filmed, entertaining movie. It was funny and so fucking dark. So if you like horror movies and you want something that
What is it? Was it Monkey Shine? Is that the story?
I think it is Monkey Shine.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
in the
God. I've
Skeleton Crew, his collection of
Yes.
short stories in Skeleton Crew. And I remember the
Yep.
story and I was like, but I thought this movie was actually a much better than the actual original story. So,
Well, the thing about he doesn't knock it out of the park every time.
right.
That's the thing about
Right.
Stephen King, and
And
that's
it was a
you
perfectly
know.
good scary short story. The idea of it is scary, this randomness. Basically that's what's scary about is this random, that you could die in this random weird way. So because it does happen to people, but yeah. And then the monkey character, the little monkey toy is terrifying. But oh my god, it's so many like little short, like the one guy that was in Parks and Rec who played Amy Poehler's boyfriend that she ends up marrying.
Oh, Adam Scott.
Adam Scott has this really short parted in the beginning, and he runs into this toy store, and he's covered in blood, and he's got this monkey, and the guy at the counter looks at him. He's like, "Don't worry, it's not even my blood," So that's how it starts. So right then and there, exactly. I'm like, this is going to be a bloody movie, and it's going to be a dark humor movie. So if you don't like it, you should go get your money back right now.
Right now, just so where you know,
Just so you
and
know,
that's
it's
good.
not going to get better.
This is not this. No one's gonna be okay. So
Mhm.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, no one's going to be okay. So anyway, it was It was dumb and fun and well filmed, well acted, a very amusing story, and it was just a fucked up little tale, and I truly enjoyed it.
And I love the toy as horror genre.
Me
I think
too.
that's just great. I'm like dolls as things that are terrible, and
Hmm.
this case monkeys, Jack in
Hmm.
the Boxes, haunted
Hmm.
toys. Yeah, that's there's something to be said. That's what one of the reasons I love Cabin in the Woods so much is that there's a whole thing of, haunted objects in that movie. So there you
Exactly.
go. Yes. Hey, should we talk about books now? Because
Yeah, let's
we're
talk about some
literally
books.
25. We're almost halfway through our broadcast, and we haven't spoken about a book other
We have
than
only
like
talked about
we're
dumb
gonna talk
stuff.
about book. I know. Well, that's what we do, and
Hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like the way things are right now, it's real easy to slide into dumb stuff.
Yeah, super easy. That's just a
Yeah, because I'm not
nice
sure,
breeze.
eh, and I think we're probably gonna have to change our name to just dumb fun stuff because you get punished for being smart anymore, and I hate that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the intellectual is out of style.
It is.
Hmm.
It's not okay to be smart. So, but
Hmm.
we're gonna continue to be smart because I can't
Damn it.
help it. Okay,
Me
yeah,
neither.
I
Me
know.
neither.
And should we talk about some books?
Yeah, let's talk about some books.
Okay, let's start with you.
All right, so I just recently finished this book. It's called Mischievous Creatures: The Forgotten Sisters Who Transformed Early American Science, and it's by Catherine McNewer. And I actually found this book, Jenny, when we were in Chicago. I found
Nice.
this book at the Unabridged bookstore in Chicago, and it
Which
had
is a
everything.
fantastic bookstore. If you're in Chicago, go to Unabridged Books.
Yes. So I read the synopsis of it, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. So this book is a rediscovery of the Morris sisters. So it's a biography, nonfiction, a rediscovery of the Morris sisters. Margarita Hare Morris, who was an entomologist, so studied bugs, and her sister Elizabeth Carrington Morris, who was a botanist. It chronicles their early life, their scientific achievements, and America as a young country and the role of women in public and private spheres. So these women were born in the late 1790s and never married, grew up basically as America was growing up, and how America was treated as this kind of, country bumpkin, younger cousin of Europe, and how they were able, despite the fact that they didn't go to college, were able to make these major scientific discoveries, but were forgotten. Their contributions were forgotten because they were women. So if you enjoy reading about science, history, nature, and or the lives of women, this is the book for you. A warning: sometimes you will get pissed off because patriarchy.
It's Patriot. Well, and that's one of the it's one of the really dark things about women in the past is that you have just tale after tale after tale of women in science who are basically ignored, forgotten, overlooked
Mhm.
because
Literally
of
have their ideas stolen from them.
it.
Mhm.
You know, yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay, so the way we're gonna do this, Ann, I have 5 questions to ask you about your book selection. Are you
Okay,
ready?
I'm
All right,
ready.
I'm gonna put us up here so we can see our beautiful
Mhm.
faces front and center. All right, so question one, what did you like most about this book?
What I really loved about this book, oh man, was I loved the relationship these women had with each other. Of course, they were sisters, and then the scientific community that they built with other women in their area. So these two young women grew up in a wealthy household, which they talk a lot about in this book, and how that if they hadn't had the wealth and the time that wealth allotted them, that they would have never been able to do what they do. So they surrounded themselves with other intelligent, not just women, but other intelligent people of their age group, and they basically developed their own science club was what they did. And
Nice.
then as they grew into adults, their connections helped them um, get their ideas out into the public, and it helped other people make connections with other scientists, other entomologists, other botanists, with Darwin even. So
Ooh.
they not only developed their own scientific selves, but they helped expand science in America, especially in the Philadelphia and on the East Coast. So that's what I really loved about that, was that they were super, super willing to bring other people into their circle and then and send information out into the world in a time and place where we can be very secretive about what we're studying and doing so that other people won't make money on it. They were all about sharing and learning through others. So it was really, that was my favorite part.
Wait a second. You're telling me that they found value in just sharing scientific discovery?
Yeah, they did. They found
Hmm.
they were they published a ton. They both published a bunch of work in local when magazines were a thing, magazines and newspapers. So they both published a ton of work, and basically a lot of like both of their discoveries were very focused on agriculture. And at the time, America
Hmm.
was an agriculture place. So
Oh,
what they were
definitely.
studying and doing was helping other people grow food, basically. So, you know, their discoveries about wheat flies and 17-year cicadas and all this was, you know, this was helping people in their community grow better food.
Well, and,
So,
and that's what it's interesting because I just had this lengthy discussion with one of my coworkers the other day about, as a science teacher, how we teach science to kids now and how I believe disconnected it is
mhm,
to the natural world, which is, you know, you know, the curriculum that I'm dealing with right now is so disconnected from the natural world. I'm like, why,
mhm,
when did chemistry, when did we decide that it was okay to teach chemistry out of context with what's happening in the natural world? So I
mhm,
love that they basically were saying, and that's what's, and I say this all the time, that science is not a thing, science is a process. And this is a great
mhm,
example of people that are using the scientific process in order to make discovery, to do something better, make something better, grow something better.
mhm.
I love that.
Yeah,
Okay, question
yeah.
two. What surprised, delighted, and angered you about this book?
Of course, I wasn't surprised at how these women were treated by their male contemporaries. They were used for their discoveries. They were used for their willingness, pardon me, to share their knowledge, and then they were not credited for it. Um, and it was so frustrating to see mistakes being made by male contemporaries because they refused to believe the work that these women were doing was legitimate. And
Mm.
so this whole thing about there was this type of fly that fed on wheat, and it was destroying wheat crops. And Margarita was the first to identify this and how it reproduced. And for years, nobody would believe her.
So
And so for
how much money and how many crops and how many people starved because of this?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
How many people
Yeah.
lost land, lost lives, lost income because people would not, because men would not believe that she had discovered a new type of fly and how it reproduced. And because she knew how it reproduced, they would be able to figure out how to stop it. And she even
Sure.
found a way to stop it. And they were like, no, sorry, nobody would
Take your
believe her.
lady brain and go home and have babies. Okay,
Boy, that
good.
is
Good talk.
exactly it. You know, your lady,
Yeah.
your stupid lady, mushy, stupid lady brain couldn't possibly figure this out. So that was very infuriating. And it happened time and time again. And even when they were finally recognized, it was always on the periphery. I'm like, hey, you get to join our science group, you know, but you're not a voting member, you know, that kind of bullshit. So
Mm.
we want you to join our science group and pay our due and pay the dues and donate your work, but we don't want you to come to the meetings because that wouldn't be ladylike. You can't travel here by yourself because, you know, yeah, that kind of bullshit.
Mm. Because your uterus might fall out.
Exactly, because your uterus might wander into your brain and then you might, you know, not want to have babies or something. I don't know. It was just so that
The
kind of stuff.
wandering uterus. I hate it when
It
that
didn't
happens.
surprise me, but it definitely pissed me off.
Okay, real quick, give me a quick blurb on tell me a little bit about each sister, how they were alike, and how they were different.
Okay, so Margarita was the younger. They were 2 years apart, and Margarita was 2 years younger than her sister Elizabeth. Margarita studied entomology. She loved insects from a very early age, and she was very much about having people know what she discovered, and which was unusual at the time. Women weren't supposed to have their names in the papers only two times when they got married and when they died. So she was very, very public about her discoveries and wanted people to know what was going on and her, like she discovered that cicadas eat tree roots. Nobody knew that before her, and that
Hmm.
they were a big problem for fruit trees. So she wanted everybody to know. She was very, very public about who she was and her discoveries, and she took a lot of shit for it. Now
I bet.
Elizabeth was a botanist, and her thing was collecting. She collected plants and huge gardens, collected plants and specimens all over the world. Prolific writer, but usually wrote anonymously. or so she was very much about people not knowing who she was or not knowing her about her ideas. But she wanted to get that information out there. And then they were both good about helping other people with their discoveries. But Elizabeth, she got people connected, who ended up traveling all over the world, places that she would never travel to. She got other people jobs and introductions so that they could travel all over the world and then send her plants. So
Right.
one was very
Cool.
public and the other was quite private.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Number four. Well, and I guess you've kind of already talked about that. What were the key scientific contributions
Hmm.
of Margarita and Elizabeth, and how did they influence the development of American science?
Well, the thing is, one of Margarita's discoveries was that the great big water beetles, you may have seen pictures of them, the great big water beetles, when um, they would eat fish eggs, but sometimes the fish eggs would cling to their legs,
Hmm.
and they would fly to other ponds and lakes, and then those fish would hatch in new ponds and lakes. So she discovered how these fish were being transplanted to other places in the world, and she gave this information. She was able to, she knew somebody who knew Darwin, so she sent all this information to Darwin. And of course, he didn't use her information because he was quite the misogynist and her soft, mushy lady brain. But he didn't publish it, but he did use it as his references. So even though it was a little more proof for him and a little more proof, and it was proof that she was right, that like this is
Yeah.
actually happening. And so it was just that, it was like that was a big contribution. She was helped establish evolution. The bitch helped establish evolution. And the funny thing is, like, sometimes men would use both of the information from both sisters to justify their own discoveries or publications, and then they wouldn't cite them, or they would cite them, but then the next person to read that book wouldn't cite the sisters, they would cite the newest author. So that's kind of how they got lost to history, is that even though they made all these discoveries, nobody was citing their work. They were citing the work that they helped contribute to male scientists.
Gotcha. So that basically answers question five, which is why is it we never hear about these amazing
Right.
women? Patriarchy.
Mhm.
Cause the
Because yeah,
patriarchy.
and
Mhm.
and here's another thing. Science in America wasn't taken very seriously by Europeans, and American male scientists were very worried that if women were taken seriously, then they wouldn't be taken seriously. That so
Great.
if we have women making contributions, that will just be another reason why European scientists make fun of us. Yes, because we're not
Awesome.
serious. We're so not serious. We let women think, and we just can't have that. That was another very big motivator. So
We're the worst.
I know.
The
I know.
worst.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So this woman was the woman that wrote the book. She was researching the tree of paradise, which is kind of a not invasive species, but it grows out of buildings. It's like this urban tree, and she was focusing on that, and she kept finding um, notes about Elizabeth Morris. She kept finding like this. She's like, who's this Elizabeth Morris? And it took her down this rabbit hole. And that's how she discovered these two sisters. Because they wrote a ton. They wrote letters, they wrote articles. So there's a ton of their writing around, just nobody had put it together into one source.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
so that's what she did. She spent all this time all over Philadelphia and Germantown and all over the East Coast looking them up. And she found a ton of their stuff. It was there. It just, nobody was looking for it. And then the author also talks about how here was two women who had the time and the money and the resources to leave all this writing. But she's like, how much have we lost from other scientists who were,
Who
uh,
who were
they were
poor, who just didn't
or
have the
poor,
resources.
who didn't have the resources, who were minorities, all this stuff that we've probably lost because they were even more marginalized than these two sisters.
There's no way of knowing, but
Right.
it's like the book I read a couple years ago. It was called Isaac Storm. It's about the Galveston hurricane in
Mhm.
1900, And it was interesting because the Cuban National Weather Service had forecasted that. They said
Mhm.
this hurricane's going to go here. You know, the Cubans were the foremost experts in hurricane science because they've been hit by a bunch of hurricanes.
Canes.
And of course, you know, the National Weather Service was like, "Oh, no, that can't possibly be. It's just Cuba." And again,
Yeah,
you know, had they listened to Cuba and put the warnings out like they had, they could have literally saved thousands of lives. But
right.
they didn't
But they
because
did.
Cubans. Yeah.
'Cause yeah, 'cause those
So,
are
yep.
Cubans, and
Because
yeah,
Cubans,
so
they
it's
couldn't possibly know anything about anything. Yeah.
exactly. So that's kind of what
Yep.
this was, is like, "Oh, we couldn't possibly know because, they're women," or so anyway, it
Yeah.
was a very good book. It was She did a
All
really
right.
good job of addressing not just who these women were, but who America was, and, you know, and, how they were affected by their own cultural position.
Cool.
Mhm,
Cool. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back to this slide real quick. I'm going to throw this back on.
mhm.
Boop. There it is. All right. So, all right. So your book is called Mischievous Creatures. It is by uh,
Catherine McNeuer.
Catherine McNeuer. Okay. And you're also going to talk about banned books. We'll do that after a
Mhm.
second, which is another book. That's your little mini book that you're talking
It's my
about.
baby book.
Um, so the two books I've read recently are Ina Garten's "Be Ready with When the Luck Happens" and Adam Higginbotham's "Challenger." And I'm choosing today to talk about Ina Garten's "Be Ready When the Luck Happens." Not that I thought it was a better book than Challenger. Challenger is actually a better book, and man, it just deep dives into the Challenger accident in 1986. Takes you through basically start to finish of the space program and just what a mess it was and all of the organizational mistakes that led to that very avoidable disaster. The fact that launch ever took place, it's I honestly don't know why people aren't in jail because of that, because it was essentially manslaughter. That was my takeaway from that book. So I wanted to talk something a little bit more light today. So I'm going to go with Ina Garten's "Be Ready When the Luck Happens." So let's talk a little bit about this book. A quick synopsis. um, "Be Ready When the Luck Happens." It's Ina Garten's memoir. Ina Garten hosted the show Barefoot Contessa for a number of years, which was on the Cooking Channel. And this book talks about her journey from being a government policy analyst for the Ford administration. Um, and she essentially decided that she'd had enough of that. And in the process, has literally become a culinary iconic queen because she's an icon and she's a queen. She's an iconic queen. So she shares her stories of risk taking, including her decision to buy Barefoot Contessa because she kind of did it, not necessarily on a lark, but um, basically decided to give up a very comfortable Washington existence in order to do this. This was a food store on Long Island where they did not live. She basically saw an ad in the paper, but we'll get to that. Saw an ad in the paper, her and her husband Jeffrey went to look at it. They made an offer that they thought that the woman that owned it would never accept, and she called him the next day. She was like, "I accept," and then she was like, "Oh damn, what have I done?" But so it takes you through that journey of her buying the store and becoming a business owner, which she had never done, and in a specialty food store that she had never worked in. And even though she was very experienced with food, because it's something that was a passion for her even before she ever went into the business. And so she reflects on her childhood, her marriage, the lessons that she's learned about being resilient and passionate and embracing change, no matter how scary it is. And she talks about how hard work and preparation put her in a position to make the luck happen that that she for many years just had attributed it to being lucky. But when you look at what she did, and she finally acknowledges the fact that yes, her hard work and her preparation put her in this position for things to keep happening for her in a positive way. So that's what this book is about. So there you go. um all right, you
So,
had 5 questions for me.
I did. So, Jenny, why did you choose this book?
Because I love Ina Garten. I
Mhm.
want to be Ina Garten when I grow up, or at least I want to be her neighbor in Long Island, so she'll invite me over and let me eat stuff. I started watching her show years ago. Actually, mom actually kind of got me started on her show, and there's some things that I really liked about the show right off the bat. She's a really easy personality to like. She's laid back. She's not like, "Look at me, look at me." She basically has this kind of the same look. I really like the fact that when she cooks something, she doesn't she will take you through the dish start to finish. A lot of these cooking shows, they'll take you through some of the recipe, but not the whole recipe because they want you to buy the cookbook. That's not really the case with her. She would put that stuff out there, take you through from start to finish. I like the fact that she's easygoing. I like the fact that though she uses some really great ingredients, she doesn't make you feel like shit for using the stuff that you have in your kitchen. And that's one of the reasons I like her recipes is that she has geared them towards people that live at home and so though I do not have a fishmonger, I can still use just regular fish I get at Meyer and make something really yummy out of that. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to read this book because I'm fascinated by her story. I knew she was a Washington person. I didn't really know what she did specifically. She basically analyzed. She was an analyst. I can't remember which department she was in, but yeah, an analyst, and it sounded super boring. She hated it. So yeah, I think she was in
I
her
was like,
uh,
just saying it makes me bored.
totally. So she was in her late 20s at the time, early 30s when she decided to leave Washington. So anyway, yeah, that's what I chose to read this book because I just think she's a really interesting lady.
Excellent. Excellent. What did you learn about her from reading this book?
There's some things that really surprised me. The first was that she had a really terrible childhood, and her parents were emotionally abusive, especially her father, probably physically abusive as well, and her mother could be described at best as being ice cold. And
Mm,
her dad was a doctor who did not want to have kids. If he had kids and then basically said, "Yeah, I'm really sorry I had you guys because I don't get to do what I want now." So there
mm,
was a lot of really extreme. Uh, and it's interesting. She's close with her brother. She has a brother who's a little bit older, and they talk about she's open about the fact that her and her brother have had conversations about how terrible their childhood was, and she reflects on that. She talks a lot about it and how it shaped her journey
mhm,
and that she managed to do a lot of things despite that you know that that existence that she had that she took a lot of risks um in an environment that did not support risk taking.
mhm,
So you know
mm.
yeah. So
That's
that's
very
one of the
interesting.
things I learned about her, and I also learned that the woman is generally fearless. I'm like things that most people would shy away from, she took them on and hoped for the best and worked for the best. So,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Is there anything that surprised you about Ina Gardner?
Um, that surprised me about her. I was surprised that her and Jeffrey almost got divorced. They
Oh.
actually, when she first bought the store and she was working to make this store, to master it and learn it. And if you've owned a business, so you know what that's
Mhm,
like. You know the work. And the Barefoot Contessa store that she bought was already very well liked and so she had to learn how to keep this business going and then continue to move it forward. At the time, Jeffrey was still living in Washington and was commuting on the weekends to be with her. But again, the weekends were some of her busiest times, and so she was felt torn because she was having to choose between this marriage or this store. And so there was a time when they were separated for a number of months, and she was toying with the divorcing so that she could put all of her energy, physical, mental, emotional energy into her business.
mm,
And it was interesting. Her relationship with Jeffrey is really interesting because when they first got married, he was more of a father figure than a husband. And one
mhm,
of the things that they had to learn to do in their marriage was to be a married couple, and that she had to learn to stop relying on him to be this father figure. He's a good dude, that's for sure, and super smart. Dude, the man is, they're both really brilliant people. But it surprised me how close they came to ending their marriage. This, because Jeffrey is basically an institution. If you watch the show in Barefoot Contessa, and he comes across as kind of this "Ooh, doo, 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 doo" guy, but he's actually super smart and has led colleges and he has led departments and he's been Washington. He's been an insider and in you know for presidents. So the dude, yeah, what we see in Barefoot Contessa is a far cry from who he is as a person. That's for sure.
Okay,
So
so I didn't put this on the questions, but do they have children?
they do not,
Mhm,
and they chose not to have children. Ina Garten actually talks about the fact that she chose not to have children in large part because of her own childhood. And as she continued to grow her business and started to become successful, there simply was no room in her life for that. And she does
Mhm.
not, she talks about the fact that she does not regret not having children. And she's very happy with her life. And when you get that sense because they've been able to build this really great existence for themselves in Long Island. They have an apartment in Paris that they bought and restored. They travel freely.
Mhm.
She's a world traveler. She's mega famous. She got to go to a Taylor Swift concert and hang out with Taylor Swift, okay?
Oh, ooh. Did you bring cookies?
She should have. So yeah, and I think it's that's an unu that's one of those things where people are will judge you if you don't have kids,
Mhm.
um, or they will judge you if you have kids, or if they
Mhm.
will judge you if you have the wrong number of kids. So I think it's
Mhm.
really she's actually really open, and she talks a little bit about that in the book, but she doesn't dwell on it. But
Mhm.
I get why she would, shy away from that because,
Mhm.
um, especially when she was developing the brand Barefoot Contessa and expanding her store right during those years that you're supposed to be
Mhm.
having kids. It's like she wanted something for herself, something that she was passionate about, and I love the fact that she really went after that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself after reading this book?
Oh gosh, that was I actually, it's so funny because I have my little notes thing of the
Mhm.
questions. I couldn't answer that question.
Mm.
Um, and I think part of it is that I don't know maybe the fact that I found okay. I learned that I have things in common with Ina Garten in terms of uh I've been one to sort of pick up and do things and go places, and be like, I'm gonna go do this now, and then I go do it. Or I'm gonna move here now, and then we move, and then
Mhm.
and so I get. She talks a lot about embracing change and be willing to do that, and that's something I feel like I do well. I don't know, you know me. Maybe I do,
Mhm.
maybe I don't. I just feel like it's so funny because I don't like to change my furniture around, but I'm perfectly comfortable moving.
Mhm. Right.
Like, what the fuck does that say about me? So, and the other thing is that as I was reading this book, and I really love to be in the kitchen. I don't cook as much as I would like to because um I'm busy so much. My life is so full of stuff that but if I could, I honestly if somebody said, "Hey, I want you to just do this." I would love to just, stay at home and cook all day because I find it relaxing. And her show, if you ever watch her show is so relaxing to watch. It's mesmerizing because she has this fun, she's nice music in the background and everything's so tidy and clean and it all looks so good and you know, so there's things in that I really like. So as far as what I learned about myself, I learned that when when it comes to what I love, cooking is probably the thing that I love more than anything, even though I don't do it like I should. So
Mhm.
so or like I would, should is the wrong word, like I would like to, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I
Uh
think I already know the answer to this question, Jenny, but would you recommend this book and why?
yes, I would recommend it, and I would especially recommend it if you're a little older. One of the things that really resonated for me in this book is, as a middle-aged woman, you always kind of feel like I'm running out of time, I'm running out of time. And the truth is, you're not. You just have to decide that you want to do something different and then do it, which
Mhm.
is easier said than done.
Mhm.
And I think this book was really inspiring for me because this was a woman that had a lot of things really stacked against her. She was being raised in that time where women didn't do things. Women went to college, they got married, they had kids, they became homemakers, no matter what. And what I liked about, to me, if you grew up in that, and you and I grew up sort of right on the edge of that,
Mhm.
we kind of we were born in that time when women could do other things. Our mother did not. I think and I actually had mom read this book, and she really liked it, and she did relate to many things in it,
Mhm.
um, because there were certain things you just didn't do, and the fact that she did those things and overcame those things, I think is inspirational, especially if you're a woman that's not in your 20s anymore, that you have this life and you're still trying to expand and um make changes and make things interesting, that you don't have to stop wanting things for yourself as you get older.
Mhm.
So, And
Very
what
good.
I liked about Ina Garten is that, she never wanted to be that. That was one of the other things that surprised me. She was not ever really interested in a TV show. What she was interested in was running her business and writing cookbooks. That's the thing. And
Mhm.
then she was hounded for years by I can't remember the name of the woman that wanted just desperately to get her on television.
Mhm.
And they kind of dabbled in it for a season and she didn't like it because they were in her home, so they came back to her and said, "Hey, we're gonna what if we do this?" And so they actually they bought a lot of land across from their house, built what is essentially a compound of a house and a barn, and that's where they film. They film
Wow.
across the street from her house. What you see in her house is not actually her house.
Wow.
And so that they could have a camera crew in there and it would
Mhm.
be less invasive and she would have a home to go home
Mhm.
to every night rather than being in the studio, which I thought was really interesting. So,
That is.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it was great book. I highly recommend it, especially if you're a woman, especially if you're a little bit older, that this is a good story. And honestly, it doesn't help that she has lots of money. She gets to do
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff now because she makes a lot of money. So
Yeah. Exactly.
so, if you're going to put somebody on your dream board, put her on there and her
Yeah, no
compound.
kidding. Mhm. And a
Yeah,
compound.
and
A
a
staff.
compound. All right. So, we got about 5 minutes before we hit that
Mhm.
hour mark. So, why don't you talk to us about banned books?
Okay, so I pulling this out. It's not necessarily, like it's basically an edited. It's just a list of some of the most banned books in the world, and I got it a couple of years ago, and I started reading it after our new administration started, and basically, you know how we talked about at the beginning of the show that being intelligent isn't in style right now.
Mm-mm.
And people are talking about, well, I want to be, I want to make a statement. I want to do something. I just don't necessarily know if I want to go out and protest. I'm like, great, don't protest. Buy books, buy banned books. This is a great list of books. Go through, mark the ones that you've already read, mark the ones that you want to read. Some of them you're not going to want to read, but I went through, I marked the ones that I had already read, I marked in green, and the ones that I wanted to read, I marked in pink. And then I started at the back of the book with the most recent one, and I'm working my way through. And I'm like, you know what? Go to a local bookstore, buy the book new so that the author makes the money on it, and then read it. And that is a good way to make a statement with your dollars and with your brain, and find out why they're banned. It was funny. After reading going through a bunch of these like synopsises, I was amazed at how many really political or socially important books were being banned because they had swear words in them, or because somebody had sex. And I thought that was hilarious. It was like this way to like get rid of this book that you don't like the thoughts in this book, but you couldn't express it. But in America, we can say, oh, it's got sex in it. That's dirty. We don't want this book taught in a school, or we don't want this book in the library. So I was amazed at how many books were like banned for the stupidest reasons. But if you want to do something political, buy and read some banned books. Um, there's a
And
lot of
I
places in
love
the
what you
world.
said.
Mhm.
I was just saying, I love what you said about buying your books local. Um, you know, one of the things about this administration, we don't get political very often, but I'm just going to say this, is that we have this oligarchy that it's actually been present for years. It's just this oligarchy is really making themselves known in our current
Mhm.
administration. And one of those guys is Jeff Bezos. And so if you want to stick it to Jeff Bezos, stop buying on Amazon, go to
Mhm.
your local bookstore. Every town has a local bookstore somewhere. Well, maybe not all towns do, but like, I live in Kalamazoo, then you should be going to This Is Not a Bookstore slash Bookbug and buying your books there. We talked about Unabridged Books in Chicago, fantastic local bookstore.
Mhm.
Um,
Serendipity here in Chelsea, Serendipity Bookstore. Yeah, I just bought Ai Weiwei's biography slash memoir about himself and his father. That was like, that was banned in China. So, um,
right,
you know, they had to order it for me. Great, no problem. But yeah, read some banned books,
read
collect
some
them,
bad books.
read them. Find out
Awesome.
why.
Yes,
Find out
love
why.
that.
Why are they being banned? So,
And then share them
and
with
then share
others.
them.
So
Yeah. So
uh, I
that's my
love that.
advice. Hmm.
Okay, I love that. Fantastic. So, all right. Well, folks, you did it again. You
Hmm.
survived another hour with the brother sisters learning smart, dumb, fun stuff. Today we learned about books that a couple we featured a couple books. Anne's book was tell me your
Mischievous
book name again.
creatures.
Mischievous
Mischief.
Creatures,
Mhm.
which is about the Morris sisters, scientists, awesomeness. My book was Be Ready When the Luck Happens by Ina Garten. Also a fantastic book. And also talked about banned books, which is basically a listing of banned books, why they're banned. You should buy that from your local bookstore. Read about why stuff gets banned, and then read it yourself.
Mhm.
So yeah, and remind again, you guys, we would love to hear from you. Feel free to tell us the books you're reading right now, the books that you would recommend. We can have like our own big old book club. That's right.
Mhm.
Oprah had her book club, the Brothers Sisters book club, and ours is more phoneticality. It's just that cool. So,
I know,
anyway,
exactly.
we would love to hear from you. Give us your questions, concerns, comments, and
Confession.
confessions. That's right.
Mhm.
Uh, and remember, you can support us for absolutely free. All you got to do is like us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and then share that love with the people that you
Mhm.
love or the people that you hate. If you find us annoying, you want to get people started on us, you're welcome. All right,
Oh.
so we will be back next week, same place, different time, and we are going to be talking about. We're going to have a not St. Patrick's Day celebration. That's right. Instead of celebrating St. Patrick, Anne and I are going to celebrate a couple of female saints. We're not going to tell you who just yet. The pictures that you see here, though, are a clue.
Mhm.
Anyway, we're going to pair our not St. Patrick's Day, with a delicious drink of our own because, what do you do on St. Patrick's Day? You get drunk. So, what are we going to do on not St. Patrick's Day? We're going to get drunk. So, anyway,
It'll be a
it should be
blast.
fun. That's right. It'll be a complete blast. We really want you to come out and hang out with us as we do our not St. Patrick's Day celebration. Until then, I am Janice Brothers, and with me is my sister.
And brothers?
That's right. And we want you to get out there and do something smart, do something dumb, do something fun. We're out of here.